Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time we're doing a why buy on Riven, the Exile. She is a champ that I have been hoping to do a why buy on for a while now. I think she is a very strong champion and definitely one who has been, I think, garnering a lot of popularity and attention ever since Faker played her in the mid lane at the World Championships, I think. That was kind of the inspiration for a lot of her play and power, but I think she's really going to be a champion that only continues to see more play, and maybe even will be one that we'll start to see a lot of bans, because she's a very powerful kit. She's got a lot of things going for her, and I wouldn't be surprised if Riot actually went ahead and took a little bit of a balance check on her, because she can do a lot. In this game, I'm actually playing her in the mid lane. Usually you would see her in the top lane, but I think mid lane Riven is something that is starting to see a little bit of popularity, doing a lot of damage to this Orianna here. But she's chunking me down quite a bit as well. Goes for the Flash Ignite. Gonna go ahead and I actually used Barrier this game, so this was kind of weird. I actually was hoping to switch with this Vayne, but she never actually did during Champ Select, so I kind of got stuck with Riven, and I was using my 80 carry Runes and Masteries because I didn't have time to change it, because I just thought she would swap with me. So yeah, I'm running like straight 80 carry Runes and Masteries with like the crit and the lifesteal and all that good stuff. So, which actually isn't a horrible setup for Riven. She's an 80 champ, so she can make use of it. But so nonetheless, playing Riven mid lane with Flash Barrier, which is definitely not ideal. You want to use Ignite, but that's kind of where we're at with this game. So, anyways, so let's talk about Riven and what makes her tick. She is got a couple things going for her. She's got a very high mobility. She has very high damage. And she's a very strong single target skirmisher, I would say, is probably her best. She's more of a fighter than a straight up assassin. Her combo isn't really one that will like 100 to 0 someone like a Zed or Kha'Zix. But she can kind of function in that role. But I think that her best bet is as a fighter and skirmisher. She's very lane dominant. It's very difficult for champions to trade with her 1v1 because she has so much damage and so much utility and so much mobility, all packed into one nice little package. So anyways, let's get into her skills and abilities right now and get a feel for what makes her tick. This is actually, before I get into that, this game was playing with a bunch of friends. This is also related to, I believe, the Kog'Maw video I did. This was like either right before or right after it. But we've got my friend Snowbaka playing as Sona in the bot lane. We've got Han Snolo playing as Jungle Xin Zhao, and then I think that's it. So we kind of like got the Snow Wars team going. I'm gonna have to flash that hook because I just didn't want to die. But I'm gonna go ahead and back and heal up. Let's go ahead and set these up properly before we even get into anything further. Okay. Oh, I'm failing. There we go. That's better. So Orianna did get off to an early lead, but I picked up a Dorn's Shield, which is going to be really nice. I think I might have started with the Dorn Shield, and then I picked up a Dorn's Blade. Maybe that was how it worked. But that's going to be really helpful. These two items are going to be really good on Riven to help her out. So anyways, let's get into her skills and abilities and figure out what makes her tick. Her passive, Runic Blade. This is a very, very core part of her damage. Basically, the idea is that if you weave auto attacks in between your abilities, you will get bonus damage on those auto attacks. I believe she can store up to 3 charges. So every time she uses an ability, she gains a charge of her Runic Blade. So ideally, when you're playing Riven, what you want to do to get maximum damage is use an ability, auto attack, use an ability, auto attack, and just continually weave auto attacks in between all of your abilities. And this passive is a really cool part of her kit, and it makes her very fun to play. It makes her feel very fluid. Her combo is very natural. It just has a really good feel to it. And her abilities are such that you can pretty much always weave an ability in between an auto attack if you want to go super ham. So if you're playing Riven, you really want to work on trying to always work auto attacks in between your abilities. So right there, using my Q and my E to get into the distance to close the gap, and then use an auto attack to try and get that bonus damage. Scales pretty darn well with AD, 20 up to 50% of her total attack damage. So this is one of the reasons why flat attack damage is so good on Riven. It is like the stat to buy on Riven. It's just pound tons of flat attack damage, and then maybe some armor pen as well. But those are the stats you really, really want on Riven because they're so good on her, and this is part of one of the reasons why. And I'll go into her combos in a little bit, but just keep in mind that a lot of it is based around using her passive properly. So next up would be her Q, Broken Wings. This is kind of her core bread and butter damage ability. It is a 3-part ability So you activate it once, it deals AoE damage, so she'll dash in the direction she's facing and deal a little bit of AoE damage. Then she will dash again, the second time dealing a little bit of AoE damage, and then the third time she'll actually jump up in the air and then do more AoE damage, and then dash, and then deal a knock-up. So let's see if I use it. And look for the Xin Zhao gang. There's the Q, there's the Q, there's the Q. So I just used all three of my Qs in one to close the gap, and using my ult there to finish her off. So her Q is really her bread and butter damage combo, and anytime you can do like a Q auto, Q auto, Q auto is really, really ideal on Riven, mixing in her passive in with her Qs. So like I said, it's a 3-part ability, and overall, like if you land all three, it has a 390 base damage plus 240% of her total attack damage. I'm sorry, 210. Yes, I said 210% of her total attack damage is applied to all E3 of those Qs. Individually, the Qs have 130 base damage with 70 bonus attack damage. So, like I said, flat attack damage is so good on Riven. You really want to maximize that as much as possible. You can use this ability for the gap close, as well as the damage, as well as the knock-up. It just is very versatile in everything that it can do. I don't know if I actually stay around for this dive. I think I maybe back off to try and hold my tower. But definitely her core damage you really probably are going to want to max this first in almost every situation because it's so core on her. It's just a very powerful ability overall. And it just makes her, like I said, a lot of fun to play because you're always bouncing around all over the place. Even the third strike is really the one you want to keep in mind because it will knock up and it also can jump you over short walls. I believe there's like mostly the same walls that like Nidalee can jump over with her pounce and cougar form is kind of the way I think about it. But here using my E, auto, Q, auto, Q, auto, Q, auto to get the maximum amount of damage out of my passive and my full combo. Leading in with E, then using your Qs and your autos is probably the best combo she has. So that's her Broken Wings, and it's really cool. And I believe that, if I'm correct, the cooldown actually starts once you hit your first... there's the QQ to get in range. It starts once you hit your first jump, or your first dash of Broken Wings. So it doesn't really benefit you to get all three out at once unless you really just need it for the mobility and the gap close. But for the most part, you always want to try to mix auto attacks in between. Next up will be her W, Kai Strike, or Key Strike, I'm not exactly sure. This is an AoE stun ability, so in a circle around her, it will stun and deal damage to everything for 3/4 of a second, 0.75 seconds. And this is a really important part of her utility. So again, another ability you can weave into your combo for the passive bonus damage, and then as well as the stun is really nice. So it gives her 2 forms of hard crowd control in the knock-up on her Q, and then the stun on her W. It is a short stun, but it is a stun nonetheless. And generally what you want to try to do is tandem your W and your third hit of your Q together. That's generally the idea with Riven, is that you want to try and kind of stack that crowd control as well as you can to try and really maximize the amount of time you have on top of someone. Riven is a champion that really needs to close the gap. If you can get on top of somebody, you can deal tremendous damage, so you need to use your tools to close the gap. And then once you get there, your W is one of the best ways to lock enemies down. So, and Riven is very powerful. She's got Riven is one of the champions who is a tremendous AoE. So she can get into the middle of like these 2v2 or 3v3 skirmishes. She can just really wreck people. Makes her very, very strong and powerful. It looks like I'm actually getting in a little bit of trouble here, but going to use my barrier and my shield to keep myself alive and safe. But anyways, that's her Key Burst. I kind of like to max this ability last. I think there's an argument to be made for maxing it second, but just kind of a personal preference. I like to have the shield second, but if you max it last, or if you max it second, it's definitely not. I used it right there on Nautilus and going super ham. There's the kill with my ultimate. So my W really allowed me to lock him down as well as chain my crowd control with Xin Zhao. Very nice gank from him. Using my W right there for the wave clear. Just a very versatile skill overall. And again, 100% bonus attack damage scaling with fairly low base damage of 170 at max rank. Tremendous AD scaling ratios on Riven. Really proves the benefit of stacking attack damage. I'm going to go here for a roam on the bot lane. See if I can get in range. Going to close the gap with my Q. There's the Q and there's the W. Is going to be enough to get that kill. Very nice. Just going to flash out a tower and going to be more than fine. So picking up another kill during my roam is going to be very helpful. So good stuff right there, able to pick up some kills, off to a good start. Next up would be her E, her Valor. This is another dash, so it actually goes in the direction of your cursor, whereas her Q will dash in the direction that she is facing. So with Valor, you can dash in the direction of your cursor. It's a short-range dash, but it's still a dash nonetheless. And it will also shield Riven, base of incoming damage. And the interesting thing is that the shield scales off of bonus attack damage. So again, building attack damage is so key on Riven, because it benefits not only your damage on your passive, your Q, and your W, but it also increases your defense in terms of the shield on your E, which is very, very powerful. She's one of those... Riven is a very unique champion in that if she builds offense, she gets free defense. So, and her shield is such an important part of her kit, and so that's why I like to max this second. So if you get it at max rank, you have 190 shield, plus 100 of your bonus attack damage, which is 75 at this point. Let's see if we can pull this up. I don't think it's going to come up, but it says, I'm sorry, 103 bonus attack damage coming from my Doran's Blade, my runes, and my Ravenous Hydra. This is on a 6-second cooldown at max rank, and it has a 2.5-second updown, so with a little bit of cooldown reduction, you pretty much have a 50% uptime with your shield. And at late game, this could easily be like 500 units in terms of your shield, so very, very powerful in terms of a defensive shield. You always want to try and use this shield during trades to have them come out in your favor. It's one of the things that makes Riven such a strong laner, is that it's very difficult to trade with her because she builds a ton of damage, and she also gets a ton of defense with her shield. So, again, a very important part of her kit, and also, this does give her a proc on her Runic Blade passive, so that's also something to keep in mind. It looks like Kha'Zix wants to go for a dive, so I'm going to go ahead and Q in, and use my ultimate to pick up the kill there with the Wind Slash. Unfortunately, Kha'Zix died, but we got a 1-for-1, so that's okay. And I'm off to a very, very strong start at this point. 4-0-1, 130 CS. I've been really making my presence known. Got a couple kills on Orianna. Also been roaming. And this is really where Riven shines. Her early game is very, very strong. You've got tremendous mobility on your E and your Q. You've got CC on your Q, the third proc, and your W. And you've got a spammable shield on your E. And all of this is to say that she has no energy or mana constraints, so her abilities are 100% spammable. So there's almost no reason to not use them when they come off a cooldown. I think I actually kind of baited Xin Zhao into this because I could get away, but unfortunately he could not. So I'm sorry, friend, but I led you to your death, unfortunately. And then last up will be Riven's ultimate, her Blade of the Exile. This has a passive, kind of an so it's activated, and then it does two things. When you activate it, for 15 seconds you get 20% extra attack damage. So again, building attack damage scales even harder with the component of Blade of the Exile. And it looks like Zed is gonna go ham on Sona, but I am gonna try to peel her off and get him away. Oh, unfortunately, she did end up dying. Darn. So I kind of was a little bit out of place. I think she was assuming that I would help out, but I did not, so my bad. But anyways, so you get the bonus attack damage, and you also gain increased range on your spells and auto attacks, which is very powerful. Unfortunately, Vayne got caught out. This Vayne actually was having a bit of a rough time. She wasn't really that good, just to be straight up honest. But anyways, back to Blade of the Exile. So you get the bonus attack damage, you get the bonus range, and your sword becomes kind of reformed and empowered. And then you get the opportunity to use Wind Slash once during the 15 seconds of your ultimate. When you fire Wind Slash, it is a coned skill shot that will deal physical damage, and it does a tremendous amount of damage, and it acts as an execution where it deals bonus damage depending on missing health. So I believe the cutoff is 25% health. So if your opponent is at 25% of their max HP, Blade of the Exile will get a tremendous increase in damage. It goes from 160 up to 480, and the scaling goes from 60% bonus AD up to 180% bonus AD. So you really want to use this as your finisher. You want to activate Blade of the Exile anytime you want to get in a big fight. I think I actually used it right there to pick up that kill. But so you can see how big my sword is. but you want to use Blade of the Exile whenever you want to fight, and then whenever you see someone get low, use your Wind Slash to finish them off. Wind Slash is an excellent finisher in line with Garen or Darius. They have that kind of that execution component to their kit. Riven is nonetheless, and it makes her very, very scary. When she hits level 6, Riven's dueling potential is got to be one of the highest in the game, because you'll have like 3 points in your Q, 1 in your W, 1 in your E, and then your ultimate. And basically, when you pop ultimate, if you get Q auto, W auto, Q auto, E auto, Wind Slash, I mean, nobody can withstand all of that damage. You know, using all of your abilities, using your passive in between each of the abilities, and then finishing off with your Wind Slash. I mean, it just basically results in a onslaught of damage that no champion can withstand at level 6. If you can get a full combo off, it is devastating. So anyways, those are Riven's abilities. To talk about her playstyle, she is such a strong duelist. You want to be getting in fights early and often. As early as level 2, Riven is one of the strongest level 2s in the game. When you combine her passive plus the 3 procs of her Q, mixing in out attacks in between each of those Qs, I mean, she's just ridiculous. At level 2, you can get your stun or your shield and have even extra mobility or extra utility and even an extra proc. Very nice job by Sona to go ham on this Orianna. Can I get the kill with my ult? Yes, I can. Finishing off the kill with my ult and getting away with the E shield. Going to be just fine there. Very nice stun from Sona. Led to that kill. So anyways, that's Riven. Her playstyle, like I said, is very... You want to fight early and often. You want to trade and use your abilities. Use your passive on cooldown. Your passive doesn't have cooldown, but use your abilities on cooldown and trade early and trade often. She's a very, very strong farming champion. She's got, 4 basically AoE abilities with the 3 procs for Q and her W. And also, I really like to buy Ravenous Hydra on Riven, and that gives her even a better wave clear. I mean, her pushing potential and farming potential is through the roof. If you look at my farm, I've got 194 creeps. Next closest is Kha'Zix at 146, so I'm just blowing everybody out of the water in terms of creep score. And it just makes Riven very strong. And then in terms of build, you want to build 2 things: attack damage and armor pen. Those are really the 2 stats that Riven needs more than any other. You can also get lifesteal, throw lifesteal in there, but it's not required, but it is helpful. But, Hydra, Bloodthirster, Brutalizer, Last Whisper, Black Cleaver, those are the items you want on Riven. In terms of defense, you want to prioritize resistances over health. Maybe you want to get one defensive item. Guardian Angel is probably the best choice, and the reason that you want to get resistances is because she has her shield. Her shield is, let me just look at it, it's up right now, or for that brief second when I was farming those creeps. When her shield is up, she gains, her effective HP is increased. And if you just build health, all you're doing is adding. Your shield just adds on top of it, but if you build resistances, your resistances are also included on the shield. So in order to break through the shield, not only do you have to break through the shield hit points, but you also have to break through the resistances that are applied on top of the shield. So basically it makes, you want to prioritize armor and magic resist. You can probably get 1, maybe 2 defensive items, but then other than that, you really want to prioritize attack damage and armor pen. So like I said, Hydra or Bloodthirster is a really good first item, depending on what you like. I really, really like Hydra just because I love the wave clear. Bloodthirster does give you potentially more flat attack damage with a potential of 100 instead of just the, is it 70 or 75? 75. So your potential attack damage is greater with Bloodthirster, but you do have to stack it, which isn't really a problem on Riven because she farms so well. But and then also oh, and look at this flashing W and then popping Qs. I think I already used my Wind Slash, going super ham, but I actually went way too ham there. Oof. Hard to know your limits sometimes, this Riven. But up to 6-1 and 4, 226 creeps. I'm really, really fed right now. And if you'll notice during this game, I pick fights all the time. Anytime I see a skirmish or a fight, I will enter into it. I am not going to back down from a fight. Riven is a lane bully. She is a early game skirmishing champion to the maximum. You really want to be getting in as many fights as you can in the early game. So I finished my Bloodthirster. I finished a Ravenous Hydra. I finished a Brutalizer. I am so powerful. I already have 300 attack damage plus. I mean, and my farming is just crazy. I just am so fed right now. Got the armor pen from the brutalizer coming in, which is really nice, and it just is going to make me very, very strong. And so yeah, as Riven, you really want to be snowballing the game out of control. Her late game falls off, not because her damage falls off, but just because it's difficult. Late game champions tend to be those who can really utilize their entire combo, and Riven has a bit of a harder time kind of making use of all her skills and abilities, just because she's more of a fighter, a sustained damage, because you want to mix in your passive between abilities. So you can't just get out a ton of damage in 2 seconds like Zed or Kha'Zix. What you want to do is get out a ton of damage over about 5 or 6 seconds, and oftentimes in team fights, you just don't have the space to make that happen. So that's kind of why you really want to snowball the game out of control early. You want to use your early laning dominance to force trades and to get ahead that way. Because anytime you're forcing a trade, it's almost impossible for someone to trade effectively with Riven, just because she has so much damage, she has so much utility. It makes her very strong. Let's see here. In terms of kind of... I'm trying to think of what else. Riven is... the reason that she's strong is she has such a combination of skills that make her very powerful. And it's a rather unique combination. There I'm popping my ultimate, and I'm going to just dive onto this poor Varus. There's really nothing he can do. I think my ultimate did not actually hit him, but there, looking at the barrier in my shield gives me so much health. And just life-stealing back up, there's just nothing that these guys can do. She has mobility. She's got 4 dashes, basically, with her 3 Qs and her E. She's got 2 hard CCs with the knock-up and her W. It's just very difficult to deal with a Riven who's fed. But Riven is a champion who's very feast or famine. If you don't get kills early on, she can really struggle. Riven's power is in itemization. If she gets big-ticket 80 items, she's really good. Her base damage on her Q and her W is actually relatively low. It's only 130, 170 on each individual Q and W, respectively. So that base damage is very low, but what makes Riven Riven is her AD scaling. When she gets big-ticket AD items, she becomes a monster. So you really need to keep that in mind, that Riven is a champion you want to pick fights early and you want to snowball with. But, she is, I would say, just kind of when you play Riven, she's really fun to play. She's got to be one of the most enjoyable champions in League of Legends, just because her kit is so fluid with her passive and with her Q. All of her abilities they work together so fluidly. They give her so much mobility. It just makes her really fun to play. She's a really, really strong champion in top lane. The only real counters I can think to her would be just champions who are really tanky. Who can stack a ton of armor, like a Malphite. He can just kind of... it's hard for her to trade with him just because he has so much armor. And if you can stack a lot of armor, Riven really can be mitigated because she is so physical. All of her abilities deal physical damage. But yeah, she just has so many little tricks up her sleeve with Flash, her 4 gap closes, her crowd controls, her shield. You can bait people into thinking they can win a trade with you, even if you're at low health, because you have so much burst, you've got such a strong shield, and you usually are going to build a lot of lifesteal, because the big-ticket AD items have a lot of lifesteal. Ooh, going to try to flash and pick up the kill with my Wind Slash. Not going to be able to do it, though. But, she's a hard champion to deal with, and especially in solo queue, where people really like to fight. If you'll ever know, especially at lower leagues, people are not shy about fighting. They will take almost any and every opportunity to try and go ham and just and fight you. And with Riven, it's very difficult for people to deal with her because she can win fights so effectively. She's such a strong skirmisher. And right here, look at this Varus. There's just nothing that he can do. I'm going to get on top of him with using my Q to close the gap as well as my E, using my passive and my W to keep him locked down and deal the damage. I'm just massive. 10, 1, and 6 at this point. I'm even sitting on probably a boatload of gold. Yeah, it looks like I'm sitting on 3.3k gold. Just going to probably pick up a Last Whisperer next. And this is what Riven does. She gets a couple of kills early. She snowballs the game. And you want to try and just use your dominance to really wreck people's faces. There, can use my ultimate. And unfortunately, I do get exhausted. But now I want to go ham. There's the kill right there with the Wind Slash on Tarek. And just looking how... let's watch this one more time. Able to turn this around. Sona starts with the crescendo. Let's slow it down. Using my ultimate. Using my W. I think I used... I'm sorry. Let's back this up. Alright, we get the tower. Now, okay. Sona gets the crescendo. and I have respond immediately using my ultimate. There's my Q, auto attack, W, get exhausted, but I'm trying to get another auto attack, but my attack speed is so slow. Again, I'm going to back off a little bit. Now I'm going to use my Q again. Q, Q, Q to get the knock up, and then E in, auto attack, ultimate for the kill with the wind slash. Her combos are very, very fluid. There are a lot of different ways you can utilize them. It's hard to even just say there's like, oh, one Riven combo, because there's so many. But in general, what I really like to do is kind of go in with my Q, and then use my W to lock them down, make sure I get my passive auto attacks off, and then use my shield to disengage. You can also use your shield to engage. It just kind of depends. There are pros and cons to both ways. If you want to go all in, it sometimes can be better to use your shield for the engage, but if you want to just kind of poke and harass, it can be better to use your shield for the disengage. It just kind of depends, but the big real kicker, though, is making sure you're getting the most out of her passive that you possibly can. You want to try and make sure that you are mixing those auto attacks and getting a ton of attack damage. And it's just, yeah, Riven is really hard to deal with because of her mobility, her tankiness through building damage. You know, she's got also the crowd controls. She's a tough champ. Her only weakness is that even though she has the mobility that I mentioned, her 4 dashes are all very short ranged. So she doesn't have like an Ezreal dash or like a Kha'Zix jump that have these you can close a long distance. You know, with Riven, it's more about closing a short distance repeatedly. That's kind of what really makes her tick, rather than kind of these big gap closes that can really wreck people. And just how that farming is disgusting. With the Qs and the Ws and the active component of a Hydra, I just clear waves so quickly. Up to 317 creeps. Next closest is 231. It just is, Riven is a beast. Gonna roam and try and help out my team and see if we can. I mean, this game is pretty well snowballed out of control. Going on to Varus, poor guy. There's nothing he can do, and I'm so big at this point that I can get right in the middle using my E. I mean, just look at how much shield I just get from that E, and it's almost already off of cooldown. Gonna use it here, right there, to make sure I stay alive, and we just clean up on these guys. Varus has no shot. Riven is a very, very good diver. You want to be getting on top of 80 carries and wrecking them, especially low mobility ones like a Varus. But as this game comes to a close, that's Riven. She's really fun to play. She's glass cannon. She's got high mobility, high damage, but also some good crowd control. She's a fantastic duelist. A little bit of a very snowbally champion, a little feast or famine. You either do really well, get a ton of kills, or you become really worthless. That's probably the biggest downside to Riven is games you don't get early kills, you're just an absolutely worthless person in late game teamfights. But all that said, she still is a very fun and very strong champion. If you're playing against her, stack armor and just pray that she doesn't kill you, because she's very powerful. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of Riven down in the comment section below. If you're new around here, feel free to rate or subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.